coming. This is the first of our 7th annual Kendeda Play Reading Festival. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited about this year's group. If you like what you hear today, come again at 3:30 and at 7 and tomorrow at 1 and tomorrow night at 7 and run, don't walk to see Carpace because it's amazing.
Yesterday, actually, I had the gift of hearing people who'd seen my reading talk about the play and not knowing that I was present. And they were having a great, wonderful discussion about the degree to which pragmatism is necessary, the degree to which compromise is necessary, and what does it mean to compromise? Is compromise something that should necessarily disappoint you, or is compromise something that you should applaud when it allows you to make other bigger decisions? And I thought that was a great conversation, and so I do feel like that's one gift that the play can give.
My Atlanta process was really interesting. I've heard this play read several times, and it's always fascinating what new actors are going to bring to the table, what ideas they have, what questions they have, and new directors and how they see everything, and even new audiences. This is only the second time that that the play's been heard in the South, and it's a play sort of about the South as a whole, in Mississippi in particular. So it was very interesting hearing the audience, which was very engaged with it and had a lot of thoughts about it, and as did the actors, as did everyone. And so I'd like to really thank the Alliance for giving me this opportunity.
Hi, my name is Shane Sakrani. I graduated from the Dramatic Writing program at the University of Southern California, and my play is The Doctor is Indian. Speaking about my process in Atlanta, it was really great to have this play read by, the cast was mostly South Asian actors here, which, you know, I just met yesterday, and we just had these 2 days of rehearsals. But it was really great to have that, like a full cast of mostly South Asian actors reading this play, and really getting to hear it in that way. You know, there's actually a lot of great South Asian talent in Atlanta, and I wasn't aware of it. It's my first time in Atlanta, and because they have that South Asian background, they were able to participate in the actual dramaturgy within the rehearsal process itself, which was very sort of reassuring to me, because a lot of these issues actually is quite close to their hearts as well.
The thing about Noche de Morning, it best represents me in terms of questions that I'm wrestling with about my culture. And at the same time, I believe that plays are skeletal, and in that way you need your fellow collaborators, directors, and actors to come into the process. And they need great bones to be able to put flesh upon. And so what I do best as a playwright, I believe, is I create situations that are lyrical and yet dramatic. There's something about my dialogue that I hope has punch and verve. I hope that the audience is able to really get into the theatrical. My name is Joe Louis Cedillo. I'm from Los Angeles, graduated from the University of Iowa, Playwright's Workshop. My play is Noche y Morning.
My name is Will Fancher. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I went to Boston University, and my play is The River Was Whiskey.
My name is Martin Zimmerman, and my play is White Tie Ball, and I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin.
First impulse for this play was to start with the cultural taboo that Asians have with embracing family therapy. It's a profession that hasn't thrived in Asia. It's really grown up mostly in the West. This play comes from the Asian American tradition that really does look at issues of identity, cultural identity, and differences in generation. The other tradition that I was looking at was the Broadway comedy, the very sort of fast-paced comedies that you used to see in the 30s and 40s. And I wanted to find a way to create this sort of new theatrical style that blends the two together. I think of this very much as a globalization comedy. What new questions Indian families have to ask themselves with the advent of globalization, as new ideas are coming into India, different ideas about what is the role of women in a society, and how does that affect the family structure. It was always interesting to me to look at this also in the terms of the joint family system. I think in America a lot of people have a very simplistic idea of what it is, and they look at living, you know, the idea of living with your family is really considered a weakness. This is not necessarily an idea that's embraced all over the world.
I was in an environment at the University of Texas where I was starting to understand more fully the implications of my own multi-ethnic background, my mother being Latina and my father being white in my own family, and how that influenced my own relationship with my brother, who is very dark and stereotypically Latino looking, and my own appearance, and how that created a kind of tension. So I decided to make that the central tension between the two brothers who are at the heart of this play. I then chose the location of Arizona. I started writing the play in 2008, but even then the political situation in the state, I felt like it was a hotbed for a lot of the legislation that really impacts a lot of the Latino community in the United States. This play best represents me as a writer. One, it's very character driven. It has a lot of narrative momentum to it, which is something I aspire to have in all my plays, and it does seek to bind the personal and the political. It's a very actor-driven play, and I've had the fortune of having the play workshopped in a variety of different environments. I had done a major overhaul of the play between the last workshop and this opportunity, so it's always great to see the audience response. I do think it's a conversation piece. I feel like the play can't exist without the audience.
My impulse behind writing this play initially was I wanted to do a play about, it was always about forgiveness and whether or not a thing like that is possible or whether or not it's deserved. And in my development of the play, that started to move beyond just the forgiveness or redemption of one man, one specific character, as the play began to delve into the history of the South and took on sort of whether forgiveness, almost an entire social structure. No, I'd like the audience to play sort of a ghost story, so I'd like them to be maybe a little haunted, and also to if it inspires them to find out more about this specific piece of history, or to think more about the parts of American history that have gone forgotten or have been lost either deliberately or not. And if the audience finds themselves thinking about that a little bit more, I'd be happy.
I'm more concerned with an experience. I'm more about how can I shape time and space and essentially make you feel something. Experience of being in a place where it's that haze of being in a disease, where you're both experiencing the pain of the suffering of the medical procedures, but at the same time too, go into this other place of where pain will take you. You can only have intense pain so long before it becomes something else. You may call that magical realism. I'm actually kind of leaning more towards that. It's something about the spirits, and not necessarily a magic place, but more of a spirit place, and where those worlds start to lapse and condense. And when the audience leaves my play, they're not just leaving with did he survive or did he not survive, but other questions about family structures, which are really kind of built into the play. What is the cost of love? What does it mean to love? What is associated around love? Disease is dis-ease, and I hope that's something that really kind of comes across in it. I had a great time in Atlanta in terms of working on the play. Wonderful process, and since this is the first time I heard it read, it was great to be in such a room that was so behind my play, and so I have to really thank the Alliance Theater for that.
It's always interesting each time you see the iteration of it, because in terms of appearance, right, they have to look very different, but do they have a similar... Can you see a bond between them, a physical bond as well as an emotional bond? And I do think that the two actors in this particular reading did a really excellent job rendering that emotional bond. And there was also a physical, you could see some semblance, a wisp of similarity between.
Well, I guess that how much people actually really loved the play, like they connected with the play, like personally. Well, I felt like, you know, I could only really get that from a South Asian, you know, cast. Like they could really see the different levels of the play, you know, that's written into that play, and that was really, you know, reassuring to have that, because, you know, in a reading like this, it's like there's only certain amounts of levels you're going to be able to hit, you know, in this type of a reading. So the fact that they could actually appreciate it reading it, that was helpful.
This is only the second time that I've heard it it's been read for a very specifically Southern audience, and I feel that their connection to it was maybe they didn't have to work quite as hard. It's almost in an interesting way, not exactly the same, but it's the same thing with Shane's play, with the you know, the benefit of having actors and an audience that are familiar with that culture, that you don't that you can have things that you don't need to explain to, you know, you don't have to, you know, bang them over the head with it.
It's that Sally Field moment. They love me. They really love me.